Hello, hello, and welcome to day 18 out of 20 of Cook for Victory. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Millie, and we are cooking tonight at Cookery School at Little Portland Street.
And if you haven't picked a memo up of my history, I've been a pastry chef for over 10 years in Australia, and I've completed my last 3 years teaching here at Cookery School.
I'm from London. I did my professional training here at Cookery School, and before that was a private chef in Tuscany.
And tonight, it's Friday night. You guys have done 17 days so far. This is day 18. I hope you're feeling a little bit more confident than when you started. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Confidence, tasty, delicious food without any of those added baddies, and hopefully a little bit simple and it's fun and stuff. Tonight is super fun. What are we doing?
We are making a classic lasagna and a lovely salad. So we have already made all of these elements before. We made lovely dressing, we made lovely tomato salad, we've made bolognese,
we've made our bechamel.
Bolognese. So we've done it all already. So it's just in a matter of assembly and recapping all these fun elements. So to get started, if you're doing the meat one along with me, you're going to grab yourself a nice wide pan, or a deep pan, but anything with nice big surface area like I have
and
here.
If you're following me, the vegetarian version, if you can remember way back when, we are going to be chopping for the rest of our lives. So we're going to start with, as per usual, we're starting with our onion, and we're going to take it nice and caramel. So that's your first vegetable, but everything else is just straight after that. We're just going to be chopping for a very long time. So I'm going to grab my onion on my chopping board while
and I'm also going to, as soon as I've got my meat frying, going to start chopping an onion as well. So we've got some minced beef here. Nice high fat percentage, just so it's like nice and juicy, will release lots of flavour. I'm going to add a tiny bit of salt at this point and oil, but of course, like always, it's off the heat. I'm going to add some olive oil, get that frying, and now I'm going to turn it up so we can begin to get really good browning in our meats. So off this goes, and then we're just going to forget about it while I start to finely dice my onion. So with our bolognese, just remembering we're trying to copy the texture of the mincemeat. So very, very small, as tiny as we can go, basically. Well, thank you.
So I feel like by now, day 18, you should be a professional onion chopper and a professional onion browner. But if you haven't already, we are going to do this quite quickly so we can get through everything.
So chopping off the top, which is the bit that doesn't look like the hairy roots. Putting on a flat surface, cutting between, hand the top of the knife if you can. Peeling down to the first nice looking layer.
Good looking layer.
And taking off any white bits of silver skin as well.
Ooh. These are nice big onions. Your meat calls you.
It does call me. I'm going to have a look at it in a sec.
And again, we are using Jeffrey. I've peeled my onions, and I'm just going to clean up all the excess dry bits off my board, just so that I don't start to cook them and it doesn't go anywhere near what we're going to eat. And the finer the dice, we are making this like mincemeat, so the finer the dice, the quicker it's going to cook.
So I'm going to begin breaking up my mincemeat. So I'm just using a flat spatula. You could even use a potato masher, just to start to get it into smaller pieces. And so it can begin to brown, but I'm not touching it too much so it can actually form like a lovely brown crust, which is going to equal very, very good flavour. And now we dice. So keeping your fingers well out of the way, go as small as you can. Take your time if you need to. You can always pause and re-watch. So we're going about 80% of the way through the onion. So we've got everything holding itself together. And now I'm going to cut across. So once it begins to wobble, like mine is now, we're going to push it over to the flat surface using the root as a nice little handle. Doing a couple of extra chops towards the roots, just so not wasting anything. And now is the time when you might begin to cry.
I might begin to cry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tough day, you know.
So if you're following along with the veggie, this is vegetable number 1 of many. But we're going to do it the same as Millie has done her meat. So onion in, cold pan, cold oil, cold onion. Very high temperature, toss your oil about, pinch of salt, and again, high heat to get that nice colour.
I've also got a little jug of water on the side, just in case things start to get a little too toasty. And I've just been chopping up my meat as and when it smells like it's getting really brown, I'll just scrape it off the surface so it's not burning. We want good browning, but definitely not burning. So as soon as my meat is looking really, really brown, I can go with my onions, but I'm just going to hold them back for now because my meat's only just gone in, not looking very brown at all yet. And then I can begin prepping the rest of my veg. So I've got some garlic, some carrots, some celery, and some parsley. Another good use for Jeffrey, scraping off your knife so your fingers aren't getting in the way.
In terms of vegetable prep, we're just following along. We're going to try and cut everything about the same size, so roughly the same size as our onions. But the next thing to go in is our garlic. So I'm going to crush it now and just kind of keep it to the side. We're not going to add it in until our onions are completely ready. So nice dark caramel color. But I'm just getting it ready because as soon as the garlic is in, we're going in with our aubergine.
I'm going to start with my carrots and my celery. So just give them a good peel and trim before we get started. Is it making you cry as well?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Making me a bit sniffly.
Just a few tears. That's a few tears amongst friends.
I know. So I'm going to give Maddie's a check. So not much going on. Just going to shake it into a single even layer just so it doesn't start to burn. But it's not really doing anything, so you don't want to keep touching it, otherwise it's not going to colour. And I'm going to do a quick swapsies.
So I've just peeled my garlic out of that dry skin and cut those little dry bits off the ends. You can, or some garlic presses say you can put it in with the skin on, but for me, it makes it a little bit easier to get it out if it's already peeled and it's got the dry bits off. So I'm going to pop this straight through, and again, I am just going to keep it on the side of my board because my onions are nowhere near ready.
And I'm just still chopping up my meat to break it up into smaller bits, and when I need to, I'm using that flat spatula to really scrape under it to make sure I'm lifting off all the brown stuff and sort of rotating it as I go.
So I've got my nice little bit of garlic here. Again, if you don't have a lovely mincer at home, you can always do that rough chop that we've been doing, that pizza cut that we do with our herbs every night. But we do always start by crushing it, either with the blade of your knife, with a Jeffrey, you can do it with a cutting board, you can do it with your hands, you can do it with anything.
Credit card?
Credit card, whatever you got. A plate. Literally, it's just even pressure. All right. So this garlic is just hanging out until my onions are ready. And hopefully by now, if you've done a few nights with us, and I hope you have, it's been fun, you know that we're not going to put our garlic in for a long time. Literally, as soon as we can smell it, garlic goes in, and then whatever's going in next, i.e. your aubergine, is straight away.
So a splash of water, just to stop it from burning. It will kind of sputter up, but it will dissolve all the browning on the bottom, and then it's just going to evaporate off, and it will continue to brown.
So all of our vegetables, I'm going to start with the aubergine, but they're all going to fall under the same thing. We're going to create thin slices and then attempt to create thin battens, and then from there, those battens will create small dice. So we are trying to get them as small as possible. They'll just cook a lot quicker. The reason we're doing our aubergine first is because it's going to soak up a lot more oil, and we want to get it nice and tender, and we want it to release a lot of water. So first your aubergine and then your mushrooms. I'm just going to top and tail, and depending on the size, I'm also going to cut it in half because I'm a bit more comfortable cutting this amount of eggplant, aubergine, and I'm going to aim for 1 centimetre or less, always keeping my tip down. And you can see I've got a pretty steady rhythm going on, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable because I've made myself a really nice flat surface. I've got kind of little planks, I guess, that are all roughly the same thinness or thickness, and from those I'll create some nice sticks. So they're the battens I was talking about. Again, if I can get under 1 centimetre, that's fantastic.
And again, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing with my carrots and celery. But compared to the aubergine and mushrooms, which will soften and shrink quite a lot in size, Your carrots and celery will not change in size. They will take the longest to cook out of everything. So
they're
get them as fine as possible.
Very hard.
Very, very hard and tough. But you can make your aubergine and your mushrooms a little bit thicker.
So if you can see, I've got basically like little sticks. If you eat a carrot stick at home, little sticks like this, they're all kind of a centimetre by a centimetre, roughly, or smaller. And then so now I'm going to rotate and these will all become a small dice or a short dice.
All right, so my meat is beginning to get some pretty good colour. It's smelling very nice in here already. So I think maybe another minute or two and then I can go with my onions. And on the flip side, Maddie's onions are starting to get nice and brown and the bottom is also carrying lots of browning. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to hers. So stepping back so you avoid all the steam.
We are doing two at the same time. So for us, there's a lot going on the hobs. I don't know if you've chosen that challenge at home to do both a meat and a vegetable bolognese, but ideally you've just got one going. It's a little bit more controlled. You don't have steam in your hair and onions in your eyes. But either way, hopefully you're keeping up with this. There's a lot of chopping for this time, I did say. I've got my first stage, finally. I've got my half aubergine here in nice small dices.
I think you're good to go if you want to get your garlic in. So we've got lovely, you know, the mahogany onions I keep talking about. Some a little darker, some a little paler, but that's just the nature of having them all frying it at the same time. So making sure you're scraping down the sides of your pot so it's all cooking evenly. And we're sort of about here on our onion. Onionometer. We've been through it, you know. And I'm going to swap back around one more time. I am ready to go. So I've got some nice small brown crumbles of meat and lots of browning on the bottom. So this is good for my onions. You could potentially take it a touch longer, but we're going to caramelize our onions with our meat, so it will carry on cooking as well. So this is the point where have I put them? Yeah. Oh, they're over here. Thank you. So in goes my onions. I might add a very small pinch of salt just to help to draw out that moisture. But there's lots and lots of fat in the pan, so I don't need to add any extra at this stage. So it's not for seasoning, it's just to draw out moisture. And if I need to, I'll add a splash of water just to dissolve all of this lovely brown goodness on the bottom. I think I will. You ready for your garlic?
I am coming in. I've got my garlic and I've got my aubergine. We're going to do the old 1-2.
1-2.
I.e.
You want some water, my friend?
Okay, so at this stage, your onions should be looking delicious and brown, very, very caramel. I'm sure we've talked about it a million times. It's just extra flavor. You're getting the most out of your onions when you take them to that nice dark color.
Especially for a veggie bolognese. You need to brown everything really, really well, otherwise it won't taste
all the
very
flavors of your vegetables will also just bounce off this caramelized flavor from your onions. I'm gonna go in with my garlic. It's still on a high heat, so it should take maybe 10 seconds just until we can smell it.
I'm gonna move you right over here.
Which is now, so that was barely 3 seconds, and then straight away in with all that aubergine. Depending on how many vegetables you've got, if you've got the whole do, you might need a touch more oil. I'm going to do, I can hear it's a bit squeaky. I don't know if you can pick that up, but it sounds a bit squeaky and dry. So I'm going to add a little bit more oil, and maybe for the mushrooms we might need a touch more oil as well now, just so that they're not charring. They've got a bit of like conductive heat. So just a squiz of oil.
And I added quite a big splash of water. It's got lots of oil, so I'm happy to just let mine tick over. I'm basically just going to be listening out for any like sudden high-pitched sounds of frying. At the moment it's sort of wet and bubbly, so I'm not too worried about the way mine is going on.
And I'm going to leave mine in the very capable hands of Millie.
All right.
She can add some extra water if it needs, give it a toss if it needs. These are looking for, they should soak up plenty of oil, go transparent, and then after that go very dark brown.
So I'm going very, very small with my carrots, only because I want them to cook as quick as they can. But you could go a tiny bit bigger at home, it'll just take you a little bit longer. And we are trying to get lasagna done in an hour tonight, so we are in speed mode.
Start to finish lasagna.
Right.
I'm kind of quartering my mushrooms, and then I'm going to do a very lazy chop. Instead of even attempting battens, I'm going to quarter them, and then I'm going to do what I always do with my herbs, which is literally just that nice rough chop over the top until they're almost as small as the aubergine that I've just cut.
Where's Ramona when you need her?
Yeah.
This is,
she was a good chopper.
The episode we did veggie bolognese. We had an extra helper which made this go very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can queue up as many little pieces as possible, always good. Just means that you're chopping lots and lots of things at the same time, a little bit more efficient, spends less time chopping overall, which is great. Keeping everything very, very tightly tucked in, especially
And
pinkies and thumbs like to creep out.
if you can see, Mill's meat has gone very small, and that's why she's chopping her
Everything's so tiny.
carrot and celery extremely, extremely small to match that size of the mincemeat. So everything is as tiny as possible, all to match the same size. You don't want big chunks of carrot with tiny bits of mincemeat.
And I'm just running my knife over for any bits which are a little bit bigger, but generally just looking for very, very fine little cubes.
And I'm just going a very, very, very rough chop. I can kind of hear that maybe my aubergines are starting
Sizzling.
to sizzle or dry off a little bit on the bottom. They might need a toss, but these should be quite dark brown before we even think about putting our mushrooms in.
Looking good.
This is much better than the way I cut it last time. I
You
should
just get a
do
big
this
knife?
all the time. Yeah, I just got a big knife and I'm just
Big knife, more power.
kind of tossing it about with Jeffrey, but just going hard.
Yeah, we both kind of favour smaller knives generally, but there are definitely are times where you need a bigger chef's knife. Just get the job done.
I'm also trying to get this mushroom as small as my aubergine. If not smaller, mushrooms have plenty of water that they need to release. And the smaller you cut them, the quicker they'll release that water and cook it to that golden brown level.
Right, I'm hearing lots of sizzling again. The aubergine are beginning to get quite brown, but they still need a little bit of time. So I think probably by the time you're finished with your mushrooms, they can go in.
Excellent. The aubergine and the mushrooms take the longest. Once they're done, it's kind of, well, almost everything in from there. So we'll have our carrot, celery, and I've got a courgette today. But they cook quite quickly, and I'm going to cut them very small. So these ones just tend to take the longest to brown and draw out all that water. That's why we start with them. Okay, I am finally ready. Except for this one piece. Now I'm ready. No, this is it. That's the final.
You
That's
good?
it. That's it. I'm done.
All right, over to Maddie.
So in terms of timing, it depends. My aubergine is almost ready. I'm talking 2 minutes on that nice high heat. But from here on out, there's still plenty of chopping. So if it's not quite ready, maybe you're a little bit behind or you're doing it at a different time, don't feel rushed to put them in. It's much easier to draw all your moisture out of the aubergine first and then put your mushrooms in than to flood it. So well, it actually looks pretty good, to be honest.
They look good. Maybe a tiny bit more oil at this point, just because the pan is a little bit dry. And again, it's a veggie bolognese. There's no extra fat from the meat, so you can be quite generous.
So in terms of colour, I'm pretty happy with that for the aubergine. That's got like a nice dark golden. So I am going to toss a little bit of oil in. And then those mushrooms, and I'm going to toss the mushrooms in the oil as well.
Right, I am nearly there with all my prep, and then I'm just going to be chopping away with Maddie as well. So I'm crushing up my garlic cloves. Got my tomato paste ready.
Beautiful. And this one, again, patience, patience, patience. The mushrooms will eventually release all their water and then start to get that nice golden brown after that.
And a single recipe of the bolognese makes a pretty good amount, the veggie one. So you can freeze it, freezes very well. The meat version, double it, freezes also very, very well. It's always better the next day. Right, so let's have a little look at mine, see how we're going. So when I start to see all the oil coming out, it means all the water has evaporated off for the most part. Seeing lots of really good browning on the bottom, which you want to scrape off. My onions are getting like pretty brown, so I'm not too far off in terms of adding the next stages. So I'm going to add a splash of water, scrape the bottom really well, and you can just see how brown the water is. So partly why you want to go so brown is it's giving a lot of flavour, but it's also giving really good colour to the sauce.
Smells really good already.
Yummy. And I'll give Maddie's a stir as well.
I'm just starting on the rest of my veggies. I'm going to attempt to do exactly what Millie's just done with her celery and carrots. Start with my carrots, just peel them off, and again I'm just going to create those battens even smaller this time if I can, so less than a centimetre, half centimetre or smaller.
So just use oil as you need for the veggie one. I've just added a splash more, and now I'm going to add a little bit of water just to dissolve all that brown stuff on the bottom. Looking good. All right, I think I am there for my onions. I'm going to add in my garlic and my tomato paste. Fry those very, very briefly, and then I'll get in my carrots and my celery. So I'm using a tablespoon of tomato paste. And then just toast that in all of that lovely fat, flavoured by the onions and the beef.
Smells good.
Yes, I can smell garlic now. So in we go with our carrots and our celery. I've just got a tiny bit left to chop, so that can go in very shortly. And then I'm going to crack open a tin of tomatoes and get that in as well.
And then we're going to send it to sleep on the back burner.
Yes, 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 yes.
So tonight is, I think, the culmination of everything.
Many.
Chopping, cooking onions,
pasta.
cooking. Oh yeah, we're going to cook pasta. We're going to cook.
Well, we're
bechamel.
cooking in the oven today, but
yeah,
technically. So I'm just creeping my fingers back as I go, so they are well out of the way. Right, in they go. I'm going to give Maddie's a quick stir. Actually, still looking good. Maybe needs a splash of water. So all the onions in Maddie's one have shrunk down a lot in volume. The whole pot is looking really brown. So it's probably not a bad time for her to start adding extra things in as and when they're ready.
Are you pushing me to do my carrots faster?
No. Just saying when you're ready. And it's getting very steamy in here already. We've got our bolognese facial on.
And it's only going to get hotter.
All right. So my last two ingredients are a little bit of parsley and some chopped tomatoes, plus a tin of water to rinse out. So I'm not far off from my assembly, and then I'm going to give my friend Maddie a hand because she's got much more to chop than I have. So that extra tin of water just means I can cook it at a nice fast bubble, and it's not going to stick and burn very quickly. It can just simmer away in the background.
Okay, I'm done with my carrots. So as Millie said, I'm going to put these in just to stop the colour or start it to cool it down a little bit. Carrots, as they're ready, same with the celery and the courgette. You can do them all at once, or you can do them as they're ready and just empty your bowl and start again.
So especially because carrots and celery take the longest, it's a good idea to get those prepped first.
Oh,
right,
so
speed
beautiful.
chop. So stalks and all, because we are chopping them nice and fine and they're going to be cooked, so it's fine to include them. I'm going to stir this in, and the last ingredient I have is a stock cube.
For flavour.
For flavour, also a tiny bit of seasoning, so I'm going to crumble that in, and it's just going to dissolve into my lovely sauce. Right, so that's bolognese done. I'm going to send this to the back to have a nice hot nap in the sauna.
Go to sleep. And I'm back for the celery this time. Vegetable part 10.
And I will keep an eye on Maddie's. So it's getting to the point where when I scrape and I scrape, nothing's coming off, so a big splash of water. the water goes brown, so all that liquid is dissolving off. So scraping everything off the edges as well. What can I chop for you, my dear?
My courgette.
Yes. So courgette, a little bit like aubergine, but just much more uniform in size. I'm going to trim off top and bottom. Yes. And then I'm going to cut it into something that's a bit more manageable for me. So I'm just going to go in half because it's just a little bit smaller than the length of my knife. Once again, cutting off a plank and then into nice battens or planks.
I'm just doing the same with my celery.
Yeah. Stacking them on top of each other. So I've got something nice to work with. I've got my matchsticks.
Matchsticks, that's a much better word than battens. Matchsticks.
And if your tower of battens / matchsticks is getting too high, just get rid of a couple.
And so all my celery is ready, so I'm going to pop that into, give it a little toss around. Depending on how it's looking, I might add a touch of oil. We'll see how we go.
Sounding pretty frizzly.
Frizzly?
Frizzly fry.
So that's all our hard, hearty goods in. Goodbye.
Oh, what, a donation to
a donation to the floor gods. In terms of the colour on the bottom of the pot, you can see it's got a little bit here. I am going to add a dash of water, see if I can get that off and get it into my vegetables.
Right, so my donation.
And Millie's donation, preferably not to the floor gods.
I'll try my best.
Just a regular donation to the pot. All right. We're so close. Almost to that, my favourite thing, which is the everything in stage. So tomato, stock, tomato paste, everything in.
But the most important order is browning your onions and then browning your sort of meat replacements, which for us is aubergine and mushroom. If you don't do that stage, you're going to miss out on a lot of flavour. So make sure you do that and take the time to do it, but everything else can go in shortly afterwards.
And to be honest, when this is done, it does genuinely look quite meaty because all your vegetables have soaked up all that caramelised goodness, and it's quite dark, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty good replacement. I think of all the, I said it on the veggie volo night and I'll say it again, out of all the vegetarian recipes we have, I think this is one of the most faithful replacements because it is very similar in flavour, the ingredients are very similar and the texture is just the same. So it's like a really, really nice way to try out a new veggie recipe. If you're feeling like using a little bit less meat, it's also a good way to get started.
And you can kind of do a combo in the both, combo of both of them.
Yeah, after our vegetarian bolognese day, I did a mixture of the meat and the veggie one in my plate and it was delicious. Because I like a little bit of both.
You love a little bit of both. And I've got my parsley. I'm just doing that rough chop that I did kind of for the mushrooms as well. Or the pizza chop. What do you call it?
Rock chop.
Rock chop.
Yeah, same.
Pizza chop, rock chop, whatever. Whatever gets it small, and the parsley stalk's fine enough to be tender when they cook.
All right. So we've got lovely tiny cubes. All our beautiful chopping. Now getting really sniffly. It's very steamy in here.
My eyes are red.
Once Maddie's got her parsley done, she's going to go in. But we've got our stock cube and a tin of tomatoes plus a tin of water, same as always.
Everything in.
Everything in at once.
Parsley, stock, tomato.
Tin of water.
Parsley? I said that. Tomato paste. I knew I said tomato twice for a reason.
Tomato paste.
We've got our tomato paste or tomato concentrate or sun-dried tomato paste if you've got it at home.
All of the above. All right. So just going to break all this up, scrape off anything off the bottom, and then once again, it's going to get sent to the back, and we're going to show you how to make a bechamel. Then we'll have a little taste, see how we're going. Probably start assembly, begin baking our lasagnas, and then we'll make a lovely salad together.
I guess now is a reasonable time, depending on how long your oven takes to turn on. It might be a good time to turn it on to a high heat for your lasagna. Ours is quite quick, it takes like 5 to 10 minutes to heat up, so we're not going to go just yet. But if you've got a very old oven at home and you know it takes a while to get to a high temperature, now's probably a good time to turn it on. The bolognese is probably going to be at least another 20 minutes cooking, but as soon as it's ready, we can put our lasagna together. No problems, nice, fresh, straight in the oven. So, if you've managed to keep up with us, good work, that's fantastic. We are chopping like crazy. We are sweating like crazy. We work hard for our lasagna. And so now we're going to move on to the bechamel. So you can grab your pan, you can grab your milk, plenty of nutmeg as we know, your tasting spoons if you've got them lying around. We're just going to do a bit of a pat down because somebody, possibly me, made a little bit of a mess.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is also use number 3000 for Jeffrey, scraping down your bench. Haven't even wiped it yet and it looks clean.
And top tip is if you clean as you go, you'll just save yourself a little bit of time towards the end. So just going to wipe everything down, make sure my hob is clean again, and then we will begin on our bechamel. Right.
So Millie and I are doing 2 recipes per lasagna. So 2 for me and 2 for Millie of the bechamel.
So if you run out of bechamel, it is just the worst thing ever. So if you're ever in doubt, just do a tiny bit more than you think.
We've talked about how scalable it is. So if you just need to do like 2 and a little, you can do 2 and a little. It's very much a scalable
and
thing.
if you have extra, you can freeze it in a pinch. So not the worst thing to do if you make a little bit extra. So just like always, off the heat, flour and oil in equal parts, and we're going to mix.
A neutral oil. So we've got our rapeseed oil and our flour. Like I said, we're doing 2 times 2 recipes. So I'm doing a double and Millie's doing a double. So 4 tablespoons of flour and 4 tablespoons of oil. And
this
then
is a
1 liter of
recipe,
milk?
yes.
1 liter of milk.
It's a recipe that directly scales. You could make times 50, you could do a half, and it would still work out the same way. So working it into a nice smooth paste. And then we're going to go in with nutmeg, tiny bit of salt, and our milk. All off the heat still.
We're not on the stove yet. This is all cold. We love our nutmeg, so I'm going to be quite generous, I think, to start.
And we're only going to add a little bit of Parmesan on top at the very end. So this is not going to be a cheesy sauce like our mac and cheese or our cauliflower cheese. So you want to season this fairly well. Just start with, a medium pinch, as we discussed a couple of episodes ago. So mixing this in.
So again, we're both doing a double recipe each. So this is half the milk that we need. And just gradually at this stage, again, it's all still cold, but if we work the lumps out now, it's much easier later on. If you do it all off the heat, there should be really no lumps. There's no reason for you to have a lumpy bechamel.
And we're just doing gradual addition just so we don't overwhelm it. Again, lumps are our worst enemy. And we're using a whisk, but I think if you were really speedy with it, you could use a fork or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Until a certain point, or a wooden spoon. So it'll look a little bit ugly before it begins to get better. That's just part of the process for adding in your milk. And make sure you've got a tiny bit of extra milk. You may need to thin out your sauce later on. So don't be using your last dregs of milk. But yeah, my hob is totally off. I'm just doing this so I'm near the camera. But at this point, still off the heat. Cold milk, cold oil, cold pan. Once you've added in about half your milk, which we are nearly there, and you've got like a nice thin looking mix, and you've gone all the way to the edges of your pot, then you can add in quite quickly. No risk of
So I'm going in with stage 2. So one recipe has 500 ml, which we've done. Because we're doing double, we are now at 2 times, well, just shy. I'm going to give you mine, and then I'll...
Thank you. All right, so I'm now going to add in the rest of my milk. So that is a litre of milk total. I'm going to give it a quick mix. And now I can turn up the heat. So ideally do this slightly lower, but we're trying to crank this out. So we're going to put our heat up quite high. And this will only begin to thicken once it hits. Once I can start seeing steam come off it, it's going to begin to thicken. So that's when I'm going to start keeping a much closer eye on it. And now we've done bechamel so many times, we know we're looking for it to boil. That means the starch is cooked and everything is nicely thickened. So I'm just going to be here whisking for my life.
Whisking for my life. As our bolognese at the back also just is going nuts. Again, I'm going to work on both. It will kind of go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. So you think you don't need to watch it, but then all of a sudden you do. So we're just waiting, like the milk is cool, so we're waiting for the milk to get a bit of heat. But as soon as it does get warm, it will start to thicken very, very quickly. And you really want to be there kind of constantly stirring, because as soon as your flour's in, it can start to cook to the bottom of your pan. So you might walk away, but if you've got it on a high heat, you're just going to come back to basically a pancake on the bottom of your pan, but it still looks like milk on top. So don't be tricked by the bechamel. Don't let it trick you. We're going to go nice and high. Again, we're going to managing to do our 2 lasagnas all in an hour, at least put together and in the oven in the hour.
So I've just had a quick check on our bolognese. I've actually added a splash of water to both of them just so they can maintain that really high bubble, because at the moment they are sticking a touch on the bottom, so I just don't want them to burn while I'm not watching them.
Yeah, we want to be able to forget about them. And again, we're pushing them for time, we're bullying them a little bit. They could always take a nice low, slow burn over, say, half an hour, 45 minutes, even
she's
longer.
on double whisk.
I know, look at me go.
Double whisk juicy.
Is this one mine? Is that one?
This is mine. Don't touch my stuff.
Don't touch my stuff. Even though it's the exact same recipe.
We shall see.
Yeah, but mine's going to have more nutmeg.
Partly why we're not adding any cheese to this is it's a very, very rich dish. You're going to have meat sauce or veggie bolognese sauce, bechamel, pasta, repeating it, and then on the very top layer you'll add in your pasta, your parmesan, because basically it's just going to be too rich if you add a little bit of parmesan in each layer. So we
And
only
thick as well. This should be like a nice creamy thing.
Yeah.
And don't be shy with your whisk. I think like it's not stirring. Millie and I are actually like
Scraping.
We're scraping the bottom of the pot, kind of like we do with our wooden spoon. So don't be. This is not a time to be gentle.
And I'm seeing steam on my one, so we're not too far off. I'm also starting to see it thicken on the bottom of my whisk. So this is not the time to walk away. So it's time to start whisking a little more furiously, because it's about to go from
More
0
furiously
to
than what I'm
very
already
thick.
doing. Patience, patience, patience.
Oh yeah, yours is also steaming. Right.
We're close. Yeah, I've got.
And going all the way to the corners of my pan, the edges, corners of my.
You said corners.
I said corners. I'm only
All
mocking you
4
there.
corners. So we're going to pop our ovens on. Hopefully, I said nice and hot. When I say we, I mean Millie, obviously.
No, you just splashed it.
Oh, sorry. Nice and hot. So the lasagna takes a long time to cook. We will hopefully get to see a little bit of colour, but realistically, these lasagnas will be going in just as our hour finishes together and still take at least 30-40 minutes to cook in your oven. So pop your oven on. We will taste our bolognese. Taste our bolognese, put them together. We'll show you how to layer up, and then you can finish off cooking at home after our hour is done.
And we've got ours on full heat, but yeah, as Maddie was saying, you don't have to have it quite as hot. Ours is on 14 out of 14, so as hot as it can be, and that's why I keep adding extra water to make sure it's not burning while it's cooking nice and fast. Because it's a bit like boiling a carrot compared to frying it. It takes much, much longer if you fry it. And we can have a quick status report in a sec. Mine has just begun to thicken.
Yours is always faster than mine.
It's because I love it more.
Yeah.
You know, I bully it.
Do you think you can
With my
whisk
love.
both?
No, you can whisk mine.
Okay.
All right, let's have a quick check, see where we are
And I'm just going to
with Bubble
practice
Central
whisking
over
really
here.
hard with my left hand. This is going pretty well.
So
Better than
these
I
have
thought.
been very vigorously boiling. I'm just going to have a quick check, make sure that my carrots are sort of somewhat on the way.
Should we taste them?
Yeah, I think we can have a little taste. And these can be a little on the watery side because they will absorb some of the starch from the pasta is going to absorb all that water. So you don't need to make these very, woo!
Sorry.
Oh my God, you scared me. You don't need to make them super, super thick. Let's have a little taste.
I was jealous of your bechamel, so I swapped mine into the bigger one.
Has mine boiled yet?
No.
Oh, wait, oh.
Oh.
Oh, she's trying.
Okay. I'll swap them back then.
For you. So I'm mainly trying carrot and celery in mine because I know my beef is fully cooked. Ooh.
I'm going for all-around flavour. I know we.
You know
we're
what?
about to get tapped by
I think
whisk
mine
again.
is
and your bechamel is boiling, so we're not too far.
off she goes.
Or down she goes. Yeah.
Once it's boiled, you do not need to keep your bechamel on. It will in fact probably start to cook and form a skin on the bottom, which is not good. Not done?
I'm gonna do what I did last time, which is we've got a lot of vegetables which don't carry much salt at all. Mine just tastes like quite just tomatoes and vegetables cut up at the moment. It's got a little bit of flavour.
A funny minestrone.
Yeah, so it needs a good pinch of salt. But also just needs to cook so that the vegetables can soak up that tomato and the tomato paste and all those herbs that we popped in. Just needs a bit more time, more salt, more love.
On the flip side, mine is actually tasting pretty good. Things are definitely softening. As soon as we're done with our bechamel, I can probably begin to do some assembly or show you how to make the salad. We'll see where we are for time. So I'm gonna have a little taste of mine, see how my sauce is. So it's got that thick coating consistency. To be honest, a little on the thick side for what we're doing today. We want it to kind of pour, and it's going to thicken up in the oven as well.
More nutmeg.
Just tastes like milk. More nutmeg, a little salt. You got the nutmeg.
Oh yeah, it's over there.
So, big pinch of salt. It's a litre of milk. It's going to need a good amount of seasoning. And I can't even taste the nutmeg, so a little bit more goes in.
After all that, more nutmeg.
Maddie and I are big nutmeg fans, so if you don't like it, you can use a little bit less, but it is traditional in a bechamel for your lasagna, so gotta have it.
I'm just still waiting for mine to boil.
Right.
Let's have a look. We need a good bubble for the starches to cook out, not just a little.
It's a bit bigger.
I think I'm blocking you. Oh. Go, baby, go.
More salt.
More salt.
Even with that big, yeah, please. Tasting just about the same as it did before, to be honest. So,
tastes like hot milk.
Hot milk. Not like flour though, which is good.
No, not like flour. Not like raw flour.
Because if you didn't boil this and you didn't cook it enough, it actually would taste like raw flour. It's quite a distinctive flavour. If you've not got yours to thickening point yet and it's not bubbled, you can have a taste and you'll probably see what I mean. More. Right, and based on mine, how much salt do you have in the first place?
About the same. So you're going to go,
you're going to go big pinch.
Right.
So Maddie's is still not quite there yet, so she's continuing to cook hers.
I'm going to put it on the big hob. All right.
And always when you're seasoning...
Vicious boil. Now.
Maybe it's because you're such a furious whisker and I'm a lazy whisker.
A watch pot never boils.
Good.
Watch kettle?
A watch pot.
Now. Oh, I can see movement.
Right, mine is on its way, but it's still a little too thick, so I'm going to thin mine out even more. A little bit more, knowing it's going to thicken further in the oven. So I'm maybe adding another 100 mil, 200 mil, which is why I always say, don't do this with your last pint of milk.
Yeah.
You might be in trouble towards the end, but you could, I suppose, thin it out.
Don't do it with your last pint of milk. Amen.
Could do it with maybe a little bit of water or something. If
All right, I've got a really good boil on mine now, so that's cooking out all those starches. Not just a little bubble, it's got like I would say like a good active bubble on it. So for me, that's your plenty thickened. And a good stage that your starches are cooking or cooked is that it does thicken, so it doesn't look like nothing anymore. It doesn't look like milk, which it did look like milk for a very long time, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's thick. At a certain point,
bubbling.
It's never going to get thicker than this because there's only a set amount of starch, and once that starch has started to thicken, it's not going to get any thicker. The only thing you're doing is potentially burning the bottom and evaporating out the liquids. It's not necessarily your starch is getting thicker or your flour getting thicker.
So that
furious
salt.
boil
Still
for
more
a
salt
minute
needed.
or two has finished off those starches. Oh, it's still going even though I've turned it off. And now I finally get to season my bechamel.
So if you are doing this ahead of time, it will just take longer in the oven. So ideally doing this now is great because it'll take less time to cook overall. Now I'm there. All right.
You're happy?
It just took so much
Now
salt.
I just get to go through the same. So much salt.
So much salt. Right.
Wow, yeah.
Bland. And I had added a pretty big pinch of mine along the way.
Salt forever. If you're worried, go little by little. That extra pinch of salt, as we've talked about a lot, usually makes it a whole lot better.
Right, I'm going to bring pots back, see where they are. I think mine is almost ready for assembly. Again, when I scrape it, I can hear this kind of sizzle, which means potentially needs a splash more water, but definitely a scrape to make sure it's not sticking. then Hobbs decided to do that thing where it doesn't want to turn on. Oh no, we got it.
We got it.
Okay, so these sauces are looking pretty good though. I'm kind of happy with the texture of my bolognese. It's looking a little on the wet side, but I can draw my spatula through it if I need to, which is perfect. All that extra moisture is going to get sucked up by my pasta. And I'm going to set myself up with my little station and Maddie as well.
I just added a lot of salt into this, but it's still tasting very milky. Yeah. I'm going to go one more pinch of nutmeg for good measure because we love it.
So we are going to do the quickest of seasonings on. So my one is pretty good. I added a bit of salt with my meat, a bit of salt with my onions. I added a stock cube, which is full of salt. So my seasoning is not very far off at all. Maddie's going to need a good bit of seasoning. Did you pop your stock cube in? I can't remember now.
I think you popped my stock cube in. Okay, I'm happy finally with my bechamel.
Yeah.
Only took 45 years. Okay,
Right, seasoning time.
seasoning part 2.
Do you want to season yours or I'll season mine?
Yeah.
Just do one last check on my celery. Make sure it's cooked as well.
So mine's got a good colour actually. I'm quite happy with that. That dark kind of
Mine is good.
mahogany as opposed to that bright red of the can of tomatoes. Hey, it's not too far off actually. This is quite lovely. I don't mind it being a little bit liquid in terms of, because it will dehydrate in the oven. I think you said that about the bechamel as well. So you can take a little bit less liquid, but for me, I'm not too sad about that. It's just going to dry off a little bit in the oven. So if it's super, super dry, you run the risk of it going too dry. So seasoning, just a tiny, tiny pinch of salt. I know we talk about adding that last pinch of salt just to make yourself happy. But everything tastes good. Does it taste fantastic? I think this extra bit of salt is going to take it to fantastic.
One last taste. Mastery. One more.
One more.
Yeah.
One more.
One more.
Go on. There's a lot of veggies in there.
So while Maddie's doing her seasoning, we've got like a nice deep, but it's not a massive tray. If you get an enormous tray, you're just going to end up with a pancake, a lasagna pancake.
Yeah.
Want it to be hopefully as deep as you can get it, so you get at least 3 layers. That's kind of a good starting point for your bolognese. So I'm going to show you mine, and then Maddie's going to start building hers.
That last pinch.
Right, we are ready to go.
Took it to the next level.
Right, I'm going to shift you along.
Oh, I'm going.
All right, off we go. So we've got our little assembly station. I'm going to grab our pasta.
Are you ready? We've got some nice lasagna pasta sheets. You don't need to use fresh. These are going to cook to soft in the oven, no problems. So we've both got the exact same size. I've got a little bit more bolognese, so there might be a touch left over. Just freeze it, tastes delicious. Have it with rice the next day, no problems.
Very good. All right, so we're going to start with a layer of meat sauce on the bottom, just so our pasta has something to soak up, so it's not going to just stick straight down. And ideally, you're mentally portioning into at least 3. So I'm trying to get roughly a third on the bottom, roughly a third in the middle, roughly a third on my final layer.
And I am just literally mimicking what Millie's doing, but instead of meat, it's the veggie. So very, very simple.
One more spoon.
Ooh, one more spoon.
1.5.
One more pinch. One more spoon.
So I've just got a good layer. I can not see the bottom anymore. Good place to start. If you are very exacting, you want to find something that fits your sheets really well, because then you don't have to do any sort of crosswise stacking, any snapping.
Or
I do break off the corners
puzzles.
just because I like things to look neat. It's my story.
You and I have a very different idea.
Just before you go, we're going to go a tiny bit of bechamel. I always forget. Literally every time I do it, I made so many lasagnas. Tiny bit of beche, and then we're going to go lasagna sheet, bolognese, bechamel, and we're just going to keep on
3
stacking.
times.
So ideally, your pasta does not overlap at all, because pasta and pasta won't cook. It'll just turn crunchy and horrible.
Yeah, and because it is dry as well, it's just going to be crunchy. It's going to be like a pasta chips.
So try not to feather your layers too much. As in, you're not mixing in, you're just doing layer, layer, layer. So now I've got this looking good. I can go on top of my pasta.
Now we're going with the sheets. And don't be worried about if there is like a little bit of a gap somewhere here or there, because the idea of the layers is that at the end of it, they'll have all kind of mixed over each other. It looks funny like this, but it comes out really, really neat.
So I will use definitely all of my bolognese, but I'm expecting Maddie's going to have a little extra. So if you're doing the meat one, you should finish your whole thing, because this one hasn't got nearly as many, like not additives, but lots of extra mix-ins, which to my mind is always going to look like a little bit less. Right, I've got roughly a third in again. I'm going to do my bechamel.
Bechamel.
Woo.
Oh, you're just pouring
Oh my
yours
gosh.
straight from the pot.
I did. I
Cowboy.
slightly regret it. That was a bit, that was a bit extreme. Right, snappy snap.
I like these little snapping of the corners.
We'll get a spoon. Again, not trying to mix it, but I just want to even out just to the edges. So you must make sure that you've got enough sauce, otherwise your pasta's also not going to cook. So it is quite important they don't overlap, but you also sauce it well enough that you're not going to get any dry
and right
bits.
to the edges. The edges are always the driest bit, I think. Always the last thing to get there, bolognese. So that's why I said I'm pretty happy with a wetter bolognese, just so it doesn't dry out.
And I'm on my third and final layer, so all of my bolognese. Spread that out.
This is my third and final layer as well.
You are very quick. Speedy
She
lady.
says.
Right, I'm going to do a small layer of bechamel on this one because I'm about to go with a slightly thicker layer on my final one.
Oh no, I think I need one more.
One more layer?
I'm actually just not very good at counting.
That's all right. I did three very chunky ones. I could have done maybe 4 slightly slimmer ones, but you know, same.
I'm actually going to magically use most of my bolognese. That's magic.
All right. So I'm going to take this time for my final layer to just push it down really well. Make sure there's no big air bubbles or any bits where there's no sauce. There's like good contact between all the sheets of pasta. And now we're going to do final layer of bechamel. Finish off with some parmesan. And this one I am going to pour it. I'm risking it. Because it's just bechamel.
1, 2. Oh, this is going to be delightful.
So I'm just coaxing it to the edges. And one thing I have done is I've grabbed a second tray just to fit both of our lasagnas on, just to make sure it doesn't overflow, because it is not a fun thing to clean off your oven.
No. Cooked, dried out bechamel
Right,
with cheese on
so
top.
just a even, generous layer of cheese for browning, for a little bit of extra seasoning. They're nice and savory parmesan, so it gives very, very good flavour.
Oh, what a beautiful baby. Save some parmesan for me, please.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There we go. I'm done.
Gorgeous. We've got 2 happy babies. 1. Now we just have to remember which one is which when it comes out of the oven,
Oh, yes.
because they look identical.
This happens every
Almost
time.
identical. Yours is very lovely.
Oh my gosh, they do look identical.
They do look really, really similar. Mine has a bit of celery poking out.
Awesome. Mine's got a little bit of just orange sauce.
Okay. Veggie is celery pointing out.
So these are going to go in the oven for minimum half an hour, more likely 45 minutes to an hour, especially because we're using dried pasta sheets. So these need to go in, and the pasta must be fully cooked. Where my knife goes in, it must go in like butter. That means
Soft,
everything
soft,
is
soft.
very, very soft and well cooked.
Do you mind opening
Of course.
the oven for me? I'm not. This is a good.
It's a hefty
There's
tray.
many kilos here. Thank you,
There you
ma'am.
go.
So high heat in the top of your oven. We want that nice golden color that we got from our macaroni and cheese. So we're going to forget about those while we put together a very, very quick salad. We've got, what have we got today for our salad? Some beautiful tomatoes, lettuce, olives, and a very quick dressing as well. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Right.
Back.
Right, speed chop time.
Speed chop time.
Okay, so making a salad, we just want to make sure everything is roughly the same size. So I'm going to go into, if you got, oh my gosh, if you've got big tomatoes like me, you're going to go into about 8s. I've got a little serrated knife here because it's quite easy to chop these into. So I'm going to go in half. I'm going to just cut out that little bit of core. So I'm going to do a very, very small little V, just to get rid of that. I'm going to go in half again, and then half again. So we're going to get nice small pieces to match the sizes of all our other bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs. Halves, halves, and halves. Something like that. So tomatoes, try and get the sort of ripest ones that smell like a greenhouse. Those ones taste the best. If they smell of nothing, probably not worth buying.
Or at least not worth putting in a salad.
Yeah, you can cook with them, but they still probably won't taste very good.
Yeah, it's not great flavour.
And you can see we often use tinned tomatoes for stews and things because the flavour is just as good as fresh ones. They're quite reliable and you can get them all year round.
The salad leaves, we've got kind of a big and a small baby, so I'm just going to take them all off. Anything that's bigger, realistically, I'm going to break them just in half, just to kind of match the size of the tomatoes and making sure you don't have to put a whole lettuce leaf in your mouth.
I'm going to finely chop the spring onions. Have I got everything? Just taking off any bits which are a little bit floppy. Going to give them a fine chop, and then we're going to make our dressing, which is going to be a recap of everything we've done already. Lovely balsamic dressing. And that's going to be dinner tonight.
That's dinner tonight on your Friday night, and even better leftovers for tomorrow, unless you're feeding a small army. This should be plenty of food, particularly with a nice fresh salad. Very heavy, rich lasagna with lots of cheese and bechamel, and a just beautiful light salad to top it off.
A little bit of olives.
Send us some photos, particularly if you've managed to kind of get it in the hour, like we almost have. So we're going to give our quick lettuce a spin. As in, we're going to rinse it and dry it off thoroughly. If you don't have a spinner at home, you can kind of sit it in a colander to dry, but also maybe pat it dry with a little bit of paper towel as well. Wet lettuce is horrible.
And your dressing won't stick to it, which is just the worst thing.
But wet lettuce is just not nice in a general sense.
All right, so I'm going to trim up my spring onions, chop them nice and small, pop them in my salad bowl. Maddie's going to wash the lettuce. I'm going to put in some lovely black olives. You could use green. And then I'm going to show you how to make a dressing again. So everything is coming together very nicely. And you can use all the way up to the green part as long as they're fresh. So I'm just creeping my fingers back as I go so they are well tucked and out of the way.
Just working with my favourite machine.
The salad spinner. Right.
Worth an invest, I think. One, because they're fun.
They are fun.
This is the best job for kids. And me, obviously.
Not child bags. No. Right, so my dressing. I'm actually going to clear away my chopping board and stuff so we can see nice and clearly.
The drier the better. It cannot be dry enough. All right, that is looking pretty good for our lettuce.
And with just a couple of minutes left, I'll make the dressing, show you how to dress it all together. And that will be us for the whole hour. Pretty busy one. So you got so much done. Right, so into my salad bowl for my dressing, I've got some crushed garlic, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Again, it's the same ratio that we've been doing. This one is about 1:5 or 1:6 even. So this is that 1 part balsamic with a little bit of salt. I'm going to start with about half the amount because you can always add more, but you cannot take it out. Give it a good whisk. And then my olive oil. So I've got a cup of olive oil to go with my slightly less, my 1:5 ratio. Whisking it in, mainly to dissolve the salt, but also to try and mix up that oil and vinegar well together. And this will keep well in the fridge for at least a couple of days in a jar. Right, we're going to have a quick taste session. So a little bit of garlic has helped to make it a little bit creamy, to emulsify it slightly, which is great. We can have a quick taste make up our salad.
Quickest salads ever been made.
A speed salad. So I've got myself my tasting spoons. Just gonna have a little quick sample, just to make sure it's not.
This is a tasting spoon graveyard. Look at that.
No.
Oh, this is nice and thick. Very good. Is it?
This one's really good.
Perfect on the
It's
first
a little
go?
sweet, yeah, that's good.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
I love it when that happens. So we've got our nicely balanced dressing. We don't need to drown it, just enough to cover. So I'm going to pop in some olives, measure with your heart,
Measure really hard.
Could do more, could do less.
It
Gonna
would
pop
be,
in
for me,
some
all
of this, and then we're just gonna toss it with some of our dressing until combined.
We've got a beautiful salad. I'm going to take out the lasagnas just to see where they're at. We've got them in at 230. We said minimum half an hour, and it really is minimum half an hour. It needs to cook the pasta sheets properly, and it needs to get a nice golden colour on top. But
salad is nicely dressed. It's not drowning in dressing, but everything is well coated. So this is ready to go for our dinner. I'm going to move everything out of the way for Maddie.
And this is around about that time we say, thank goodness we put them on another tray because these babies are dripping. All right, it's Friday night. You've got at least one lasagna in the oven, ready to go. You've got a nice salad. These, again, they're only in there for 5 minutes at the high heat. This kind of caramel colour is what we're looking for.
Plus a couple more olives, why not?
The rest of them. So these ones, they need a while. They need at least another 25 minutes. Should be golden all the way over the top, soft when you put it in. But it's Friday night, relax, grab a glass of wine, chill out. Enjoy your bolognese facial. And we
we're
will
looking a
see.
little steamy.
We're very steamy tonight.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us once again. Please tag us on Instagram at Cookery School of London, #CookForVictory. We love to see all your posts every time.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
and let us
What
know if
amazing
you're keeping up
creations.
or if you need a little bit of time. Always ask questions. If we manage not to answer them, we can answer them at any time. We will see you for the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a lovely
Bye.
weekend.